Good morning. The May 1st, 2024 legislative session of Anne Arundel County is called to order. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silence, including Madam Chair. We have come together today to begin our work on the proposed county budget for fiscal year 2025. Please pause for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. May we listen to one another intently with the purpose of bettering ourselves and our community. May we humbly accept the responsibilities assigned to us. May we carry out each of these responsibilities to the best of our capabilities. And the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are honored to have many of our elected officials in the audience this morning. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go through my list of folks who RSVP'd as requested and those we've seen walk in. So if I miss anybody, just stand and I will also acknowledge you. We have Sheriff Everett Sesker. Senator Don Guile from District 33, Chair of the Anne Arundel County Senate. Delegate Heather Bagnall, Chair, Anne Arundel County House Delegation. I believe Delegate Gary Simmons is here. Delegate Shanika Henson. Delegate Stuart Schmidt. Mr. Robert Silkworth, President of the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County. Dr. Joanna Tobin, Board of Education member of Anne Arundel County. Ms. Dana Schalheim, Board of Education from Anne Arundel County. I believe Ms. Bridget Smith, the Office of Congressman John Sarbanes, has arrived. Maybe not. Dr. Mark Bedell, Superintendent of Schools, and I'm going to acknowledge both Chief Awad and Chief Wolford who are joined us in the chambers today. If I've forgotten anybody, please feel free to stand and I'll recognize you. Well, okay, all right. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce County Executive Stuart Pittman for his budget presentation.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Is this on? Yes, you can hear me. All right, well, let me start by saying to the lawmaking body of Anne Arundel County, Happy Law Day. You may not have known it's Happy Law Day, but in 1958, President Eisenhower made May 1st Law Day to honor the fact that we're a nation governed by laws. And what I'm doing today is actually governed by the laws of Anne Arundel County. I should also note that it's Pete Smith's birthday, May 1st, so happy birthday. This is for you for your birthday, man.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And this too, that's the capital budget. So go to aacounty.org/yourbudget if you want a little bit more detail than this. But I do stand before you today to present my administration's 6th budget proposal for consideration by the Anne Arundel County Council. All 7 members of this body, hundreds of our residents, most department directors and leaders of our unions have seen this year's budget town hall presentation. In it, we described a storm of fiscal pressures facing county government this year. We watched the debates in Annapolis over when and how to grow revenues to cover projected state deficits, and we've seen drastic measures taken by nearby counties. We face escalating labor costs, large increases in the costs of contracts that provide essential services, new schools opening as state aid formulas work against us, and the end of federal rescue plan funding. It sounds like a doomsday scenario, but it's not. The American economy is in the midst of what some call an economic miracle. We got past the post-pandemic soft landing that economists doubted. GDP and jobs have climbed beyond projections. Inflation is far less than in most of the world, and low and middle wage workers are, for the first time in half a century, seeing real wage growth that is restoring buying power. Bidenomics, whether you love it or hate it or don't understand it, is strengthening the American economy. In Anne Arundel County, we are also doing very well. Our economic drivers are the envy of the state, and our tax base is growing. At current rates, we expect recurring revenues to increase next year by $113 million. That's a healthy sum that will pay for most of the increased costs that we know we will face. But we still have some tough choices to make. As we entered the final weeks of budgeting, when we had to say yes or no to each of the requests from 33 departments and institutions, I established some principles that you'll see reflected throughout this budget proposal. The overarching one is the theme of this budget, which is staying strong. Whether you're proud or ashamed of it, or like me, a little bit of both, Anne Arundel County has the smallest government per capita of the big 7 central Maryland counties. That means fewer cops, fewer firefighters, fewer parks, you get the idea. Also means lower taxes, and until recently, a lower bond rating. We've done some catching up in recent years, and the AAA bond rating was not just 3 AAA bond ratings were not just about putting more money in reserve. They were an assessment that our government is delivering quality services to our residents and making this a place that businesses and people want to be. It was an acknowledgement that we are addressing threats to our future, threats like poverty, housing insecurity, climate change, aging infrastructure, crime, and the social determinants of health. So when I say that the theme for this budget is staying strong, I am saying that we must not retreat from the progress we have made, period. The other principles are driven by the first, so I'll share them along with the specific investments that back them up. Number 1, we must maintain or grow our competitive advantage in hiring. Failure to do so in this labor market would leave us with so many vacancies that essential services would not be delivered. That's why all of our union contracts and our commitment to non-represented employees include both the step or merit increase that we traditionally offer, plus a cost of living increase close to 3%. It's less than last year's historic 5% that was intended to compensate for the inflation surge, but it's as high or higher than all neighboring counties. More importantly, it's a fair reward for outstanding service by what I consider the best team in the state. 2, we must focus first on the backbone of government, the services to the services, the core agencies that make the others more efficient. This year, that meant paying the escalating costs of information technology, the contracts with software companies and hardware companies that deliver our new police real-time information center, our interagency land use navigator, and a long list of other tools that make us better at what we do. These IT investments added $5 million to what we spent last year. 3, the outlook for our future depends more on whether our school system can engage and empower the next generation of residents than anything else that government does. So we cannot and we will not put a pause on the progress that this superintendent, this Board of Education, and most importantly, these educators are making in our county. Staffing our new schools, making up for the loss of funds due to formula changes from the state, paying for the potentially transformative blueprint mandates, and continuing the innovations that began with federal ESSER funds, all put a question mark on the superintendent's request for a step increase and a 3% COLA for teachers and school staff. But failure to deliver would have been exactly that pause in progress that we ruled out. So we're fully funding the superintendent's compensation request and surpassing last year's year-over-year increase in support for our school system with a $48 million increase. Yes, you're allowed to clap, especially for that. We look forward to attracting and retaining more of the best educators to what is, according to one national survey, the most envied school district in Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. And that we should clap for, too. 4, a strong economy is important, but it's simply a means to something greater, and that something else is health. The health and wellness of our people is the metric by which the success of government should be measured, but it is too often the category of programs cut first during lean budget times. Forced us to recognize that health comes first, and it was our health and human service agencies that stepped into the gaps most boldly, the gaps where our essential workers, our immigrants, our seniors, and our homeless were falling. As the virus waned and our economy surged, it was these very same people that our businesses needed most to join the workforce and move us all forward. Federal money allowed us to experiment, to create programs and see if they worked, and many have. Turnaround Thursday is effectively moving incarcerated men and women into the workforce. We launched it with CARES Act money, and today it is funded with a federal earmark because we showed our members of Congress that it works. The Arundel County Food Bank and the food distribution system we created with the help of our Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families has been giving people not only nutrition, but also some financial relief to cover some of the other bills that they are buried under. Finding $1.5 million in county funds to continue this ARPA-funded assistance was hard, but morally mandated. We did the same to continue our violence interruption, health ambassadors, and expanded hours at community health centers, as well as our crisis intervention teams, summer food stamp funding, and support for the Arundel Lodge Behavioral Health Urgent Care Center at Anne Arundel Medical Center. But this budget proposal doesn't stop there in strengthening our health services to residents. We also invested $1.6 million to finally provide some benefits and a supplemental salary adjustment to our school health staff. Yes. We heard them at budget town halls this year, last year, the year before, and we're slowly making progress. And we deployed $1.2 million in new opioid abatement funds to continue the essential work of saving lives from addiction. 5, staying strong is only possible if we protect the nature that sustains us, a task now being implemented by our new environmental subcabinet. A few years back, the County Council was divided over our proposal to create a resilience authority. We promised that it would not only deliver projects to protect our residents and infrastructure from the impacts of climate change, but that it would also help our taxpayers' wallets. Today, it is delivering projects that are paid for by state and federal grants that total an extraordinary $32 million, with another $58 million in the pipeline. It is also, yes. We know what our chair's priorities are by now. Awesome. It is also helping our county move past its reliance on fossil fuels. To grow the next generation of environmental stewards, 2 projects are worth noting. One is funding to staff the county's first overnight nature experience in cabins and campgrounds at Jug Bay Emery Waters Nature Preserve. And the other is expanding Anne Arundel River Days to 5 waterfront locations this summer, so that families can, at no cost, get out on the water and learn about the magical estuary that we call the Chesapeake Bay. Last, and in some ways most, is government's fundamental obligation to its people, public safety. This is where our county's historic aversion to taxes left us far behind our neighbors. Police, fire, detention, sheriff, and the Office of Emergency Management are the departments where our budgets have grown most over the last 5 years. But staying strong means continuing to grow that investment in attracting and retaining the best personnel. To deliver on a goal that I set in response to this year's budget town halls, this budget proposes raising the starting salary for our police officers from $62,160 to $70,000. That is higher than any department in the state of Maryland today. To get that done, we also needed to offer a generous pay package to keep our existing officers. A package that will cost taxpayers $5 million, but sets us up well to finally fill our vacant positions. Then we can have a realistic conversation about what the ideal size of our force should be. We're also budgeting an additional $2.9 million to cover projected police overtime and $400,000 to staff our most effective new crime fighting tool, the Real-Time Information Center. Okay, you were on that one, I got it. Okay. Our firefighters are no longer going out on calls with just one or two on an engine, but they are not yet to the standard called for as a national best practice. The chief and her team are effectively filling academy classes, but we want more. That's why this budget has bumped up funding to train 70 recruits in the coming fiscal year, even as we budget $2 million more for projected overtime. Vacancies at detention were cut in half over the last year, from 18% to 9%. Innovative recruitment strategies conceived and implemented through a collaboration between the department leadership, the union, and the Office of Personnel made that happen. So we will continue to fund what works, including $150,000 for hiring bonuses. The sheriff and his deputies suffer from a 21% vacancy rate. But that did not keep them from being the first administration to step up and deliver what our judges have pleaded for years: an officer in every courtroom. This budget funds an innovative request to accommodate that new policy, new positions and pay increases for non-sworn security to cover courthouse entry and other positions that allow deputies to be in courtrooms. Everything I've discussed so far is in the operating budget, but our capital budget also reflects our commitment to both fiscal discipline and staying strong. 5 years ago, we raised our income tax 0.1%, specifically to address crumbling infrastructure and past failures to keep up with population growth. The transportation, public safety, and education projects funded with that money have allowed us to maintain borrowing below affordability, even as we fund 301 capital projects in the FY25 federal general fund budget for a total of $626 million. We have new parks, multimodal transportation solutions, and public facilities being added to our capital plan each year, thanks to the willingness of our residents to invest in our shared future. And we're managing to do it without increasing our debt authority. So now let's talk about the revenue side of the budget. Our projections for incremental recurring revenue, the magic number that grows in a good economy and allows us to keep up with rising costs for services, adds up to what I said earlier is a healthy $113 million for this budget. When we subtract out the things that we absolutely have to do, things like negotiated pay packages, required education funding, pension and retiree health obligations, and then add to that the things I've just made a case for, we show a deficit of $13.6 million. That's not a huge amount of money in the context of an over $2 billion budget, but responsible budgeting requires that we address it. So I did what every business person does who needs to balance a budget without reducing the quality of a product, and I asked the budget office for some proposals that would generate revenue. And from that list, here is what we're proposing. First, we would like to update the permit fees and inspections and permits for the first time in 21 years. Those fees were originally set to reflect the cost of doing the work, but today, taxpayers are subsidizing them. Linking the fees to the cost will produce an estimated $5.9 million. You're not clapping for that one, but okay. This part is not going to get a lot of applause, but it never does. But we have to talk about it. And Arundel County residents pay 75 cents each month for 911 service, the lowest rate in the state. By raising our fee to the state average of $1, we generate an additional $1.7 million. And our income tax rate today is 2.81% for combined household income above $75,000 and below $480,000. Income below and above those levels is taxed at a lower and higher rate, respectively. The 2.81% that most of us pay is lower than every other Maryland county except for Cecil, Garrett, Talbot, and Worcester, where just 3.6% of Marylanders live. Most counties tax all income at 3.2%. To generate the final $6 million that we need to fund this budget, we're proposing a small increase from 2.81% to 2.94% on income between $75,000 and $480,000. This change would not change the fact that only 3.6% of Marylanders enjoy lower rates than ours. Combined, these three adjustments generate the $13.6 million of recurring funding that we need to remove the deficit from the budget. The best news here is that our property tax remains the lowest in our region and one of the lowest in the state because we're sticking to our county tradition of honoring the tax cap. And for those of you who were shocked by the state's latest assessments of your home's value, be glad that you live in Arundel County. Unlike neighboring counties, we recognize no more than a 2% annual increase in value when calculating the property taxes you owe on your home. Now, I'm aware that some will say this budget is too small, and others will say it's too big. I've been asked why we don't just raise taxes to the level of our neighbors and fund everything being asked for. I've also been asked why we haven't figured out how to shrink government and lower taxes. I will say that I don't look for the political middle or the left or the right, certainly not the right, but what I look for is to build trust. Trust between the outstanding public servants whose work this budget funds and the people whose money pays their salaries. People say they want investments in public safety and education, and that's where most of our new money is going. The next largest growth area is health, the thing that matters to most of us in the end. I, and each of you on the council, came from outside government. We want to make these institutions work better. But we've also been impressed by how they work. We've sat next to each other at budget town halls and heard just how passionately our constituents advocate for government funding. The lesson we're all learning, regardless of our political orientation, is that local government really does deliver. Pandemics, storms, inflation, recession, insurrection, or the collapse of a major bridge do happen. But our county government agencies are the ones that step into the gaps and deliver for people in their time of need always. That's why we will not back down on the progress we're making. It's why I did not say no to what is in this budget. And it's why I know that all 7 of you will take this proposal, look first to see if it includes your own priorities, and I hope it does, and then work with one another, with your constituents, with your auditor, and with the budget office to make this budget even better. So thank you in advance. Thank you for the work you will undertake in the coming weeks, and thank you for what you do, all of you, to make Anne Arundel County the best place for all and for all of your districts. Thank you. Short and sweet, huh? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. This council looks forward to working over the next 45 days with our staff and your staff to make this the best budget to fund all of those great priorities. This council is going to be in recess till 1 o'clock. So may I have a motion to recess until 1 p.m.?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. This council is in recess till 1 p.m. We look forward to seeing some of you back here, and this is going to be a fun 45 days.